The Kremlin has made North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's visit official, with the leaders of Pyongyang and Moscow to hold a summit and banquet at the invitation of Vladimir Putin. With an arms deal expected to top their summit talks, the White House warned the regime not to provide any weapons to Russia. The first batch of the nearly 8,000 tons of Fukushima wastewater released into the Pacific Ocean, with the second phase of the release set for later this month. South Korea is planning to dispatch experts to the site sometime next week. The deadly earthquake in Morocco has taken away nearly 3,000 lives. With the time ticking on the golden period, countries around the world are offering aid and support. We begin with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's trip to Russia. Moscow has officially confirmed his visit will be full-scale, including bilateral talks with Vladimir Putin and an official banquet. Our Lee Si-hoo starts us off.
The Kremlin has said that Russian President Vladimir Putin will discuss bilateral relations and hold an official banquet at a summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Reuters reports that Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said this in an interview on Monday. Peskov added that there may be follow-up one-on-one talks between the two leaders if necessary. A video of his remarks was posted on social media by Kremlin journalist Pavel Zarubin. The Kremlin has officially confirmed Kim's visit at the invitation of President Putin. The North Korean Central News Agency also confirmed the visit and talks. Kim reportedly left Pyongyang on Sunday on a private train headed to Russia. The exact schedule and location of the summit has not been announced, but it's expected that the meeting will take place on either September 12th or 13th. It's likely the summit will be held in the far eastern city of Vladivostok, where the two leaders met for the first time in April 2019, and also where the Russia-led Eastern Economic Forum is taking place until the 13th. Talks on weapon deals, North Korea's dispatch of workers to Russia, and Russia's food exports to North Korea are expected. The KCNA reported that many military officials will be accompanying Kim during the visit, adding to the speculation over possible arms talks. The U.S. State Department said on Monday that it is going to monitor very closely the outcome of the meeting.
I will remind both countries that any transfer of arms from North Korea to Russia would be in violation of multiple United Nations Security Council resolutions. And we, of course, have aggressively enforced our sanctions against entities that fund Russia's war effort.
The spokesperson further added that the U.S. will continue to enforce such sanctions and that it will not hesitate to impose new sanctions, if appropriate, on North Korea. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
The International Atomic Energy Agency says there are continuing signs of activity at North Korea's Punggye-ri nuclear test site, with construction also being observed at the Yongbyon nuclear facility. According to IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi on Monday, during a board meeting held in Vienna, the Punggye-ri nuclear test site appears to be ready to support nuclear tests. He added that there are signs of activities in Tunnel Number 3 and in areas where support facilities are located. Grossi stressed that conducting a nuclear test would violate UN Security Council resolutions and also raise serious concerns. The death toll from Friday's deadly earthquake in Morocco has risen to over 2,800. The South Korean government says it's ready to send assistance once aid plans are agreed with the North African country. Lee Seung-ja has more.
In what was the strongest earthquake to hit the center of Morocco in over a century, the death toll from Friday's deadly quake has now risen past 2,800. According to local authorities, as of Monday, 2,862 were killed and 2,562 others injured in the 6.8 magnitude earthquake. The worst affected area is the province of Al-Haouz, where nearly 1,500 people have died due to the fact that it's located at the foot of the Atlas Mountains and includes remote villages and settlements that have been challenging for rescuers to reach. And with the golden time ticking down and rescuers struggling to get to the victims, there are fears the death toll could rise even further over the next several days. And with so many hard-to-reach areas, authorities have not yet issued any estimates for the number of people missing. UNICEF also estimates that about 100,000 children in the country may be affected by the earthquake, while the UN Children's Agency says it doesn't know exactly how many children were killed or injured in the disaster. 2022 estimates show that children make up around 1/3 of the population of the North African nation. Meanwhile, Seoul's foreign ministry announced Monday that it's ready to support Morocco if the country makes such a request. However, the official who spoke on the condition of anonymity said the government has not reached a mutually agreed upon aid plan with Morocco just yet, but will decide on support measures after consulting with Moroccan authorities. The South Korean government also vowed to work in close consultation with both Morocco and the international community to help the country overcome any difficulties. 이 승재, 아리랑 뉴스.
President Yoon Suk-yeol returned home from a diplomatic super week, attending the ASEAN-related summits and the G20 Summit. We discussed the highlights of his multilateral diplomacy with our correspondent Oh Soo-young, who traveled with the president. Good morning, Soo-young.
Hi, Tami.
So, Soo-young, there were multiple issues the president addressed during the numerous summits that he attended, from Jakarta to, New Delhi. What would you say was the key takeaway?
Right, well, I think a key feature of President Yoon's summitry this time around was his very bold and confident diplomacy. And that was based on his push for a rules-based international order and also South Korea's contribution as a responsible stakeholder. On North Korea's nuclear missile development, for instance, Yoon clearly warned against attempts to assist or tolerate Pyongyang's weapons program as a direct threat to South Korea and the world, amid speculation that Russia and North Korea may strike an arms deal. He actually told Chinese Premier Li Chang directly that China should do more to ensure that North Korea doesn't become a stumbling block in Seoul and Beijing's relations. Also, regarding China's expansionary posture in the South China Sea, Yoon said that attempts to unilaterally change the status quo by force are unacceptable, calling for a rules-based maritime order and the freedom of navigation. He also raised concern about the ongoing violence in Myanmar and as well as the war in Ukraine, calling Russia's invasion a clear violation of the rule of law, of the international law. And in fact, at the ASEAN and G20 summits, President Yoon was seen as one of the very few world leaders actually speaking quite candidly based on the rule of law and about stopping aggression. And this really marked a significant shift as well from South Korea's previous administrations that were more trade-oriented in terms of diplomacy and also tended to shy away from speaking out on geopolitically sensitive matters. While Yoon has long championed freedom, peace and prosperity, of course, in the region and the world, his messages this time around, they carried a new level of determination, and that was after holding the Camp David Trilateral Summit last month with US President Joe Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida.
The Camp David principles and spirit provided the momentum to push through the agreements reached at the ASEAN-related summit in Jakarta and the G20 in New Delhi. This is because the three Camp David countries agreed to cooperate on jointly contributing to the Indo-Pacific region, building the basis for development assistance, maritime security, and advanced digital technology.
Right, and this confidence also extended to Yoon's call for new norms and also rules-based world order, right?
Exactly. So he was really pushing for global leadership in climate, IT and development, which ultimately enables future prosperity for the world, which also it actually benefits Korea as well, its trade-dependent economy. Now, President Yoon pledged $300 million to assist countries vulnerable to climate change with funding necessary for infrastructure, technology and other key enabling factors. He also presented a vision for establishing a green shipping route as well, reaching from Busan to Tacoma and Seattle. He also announced a support package for Ukraine worth more than $2 billion in the form of long-term low-interest loans. He once again called for global norms and an institution on the ethical and sustainable use of AI and digital technology to benefit humanity.
And of course, countries like China have been long wary of South Korea continuing to align with the U.S. and Japan. We have to talk about that as well.
Right. So at Camp David, Seoul, Washington and Tokyo agreed to jointly engage with the Indo-Pacific region in various areas spanning defense, cyber, maritime security to supply chains, infrastructure and even development assistance. These are all areas where China has been looking to expand in rivalry with Washington. So as the largest trading partner of South Korea, Beijing could decide to retaliate economically or politically as it has done in the past. And the same really goes for Japan and Australia as well. But for now, it seems that China may have to get its own house in order first.
Given the difficult state that China's economy is in, potentially going into deflation with their huge housing, real estate bubble, and other economic slowdowns that's happening, it's unlikely that China would want to escalate these retaliatory risks, which could end up hurting its own economy even more. And so that means there is potential for Australia and South Korea to increase its diplomacy to try and manage those risks and to try and improve relations.
President Yoon shared his hope of holding a summit with Japan and China this year when he met with the Chinese premier, who is said to have responded quite positively.
It seems, though, both ASEAN and G20 summits did end with some significant outcomes, despite some, skepticism as key leaders, decided to sit out.
Exactly. So before the summits happened, there was some skepticism. There were some questions over whether even a joint communique could be reached at the G20 due to differences over Ukraine, as well as the significance of the G20 and ASEAN meetings with the leaders of China and Russia absent from both summits, as well as President Joe Biden's absence from the Jakarta summits. But if anything, these results really underscore the importance of multilateralism, in my humble opinion anyway, as non-major powers they projected their voices and also their leadership on tackling common challenges like climate change and even bridging gaps between the global south and the industrialized nations. The African Union joining the G20 is a clear example of this. And when it comes to President Yoon, he notably set out ways to overcome the digital divide, as well as discrepancies in access to finance and technology.
President Biden not attending the ASEAN-related summits was seen as a bit of a misstep, but by South Korea, as a strong ally of the United States, taking such action, it is stepping in for the United States to an extent, as is Japan and also Australia, playing a similar role too as US allies in the region.
Right, and Soo-young, both of the summits also provided some space for economic diplomacy, right?
Yes, so President Yoon on the sidelines of both summits. In total, he held around 20 bilateral meetings, as well as economic events that were planned along the alongside the summits. And well, during those bilaterals, 22 MOUs were penned with Indonesia, which is the largest economy in ASEAN and the world's fourth most populous country. They were signed across various fields such as core minerals, nuclear power, mobility, even halal food and hospital-related operations. And Korea also signed its 22nd FTA, and that was with the Philippines. That document is expected to greatly improve market conditions for Korean goods, especially automobiles. Now, when it comes to India, Korea agreed to strengthen investment cooperation in digital and green industries, infrastructure, as well as cutting-edge science and tech, as well as bolster networking platforms for Korean firms looking to enter the Indian market. So the ASEAN and India, the ASEAN region and India rather, they together account for around 21% of South Korea's export market. So these were just very important deals that President Yoon saw through.
Korea and ASEAN should form a kind of mutual value chain based on global partnership. Korean companies especially need a lot of resources, and then securing human brains from the ASEAN countries to gain competitiveness. In this sense, Korea can contribute for the gender equality and then lessening the income inequality among ASEAN countries also.
Well, it was quite a diplomatic marathon. Thank you, Soo-young, so much for covering this from Jakarta to New Delhi.
Well, it's great to be back. Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. Japan has completed the release of the first batch of the Fukushima wastewater. And as the second release is set for later this month, South Korea is planning to send its nuclear experts to the site again next week. Lee Kyung-eun reports.
The first release of Fukushima wastewater that began on August 24th ended a little after noon on Monday, according to reports by Japanese public broadcaster NHK. South Korea's Office for Government Policy Coordination shared relevant details about this also on Monday during a regular briefing.
When the cleaning of the leftover wastewater inside the transfer facility is completed today, the release of the first discharge will have been completed.
Park added that a total of over 7,700 cubic meters of wastewater was released. There were no manual shutdowns or the operation of emergency valves to prevent the accidental release of undiluted wastewater. The wastewater included tritium, a form of radioactive hydrogen the processing system cannot filter out.
Samples collected from 14 points in waters within 10 kilometers of the nuclear power plant showed that the tritium concentration was much lower than the standard for the suspension of the release.
Back in August, South Korea and the International Atomic Energy Agency agreed to share related information and updates on the discharge. As part of this information sharing framework, Seoul dispatched 3 experts on August 27th from the Korea Institute of Nuclear Safety to Fukushima. For around 2 weeks, they visited the release site and held multiple talks with the IAEA, confirming the agency's own analysis of radionuclide concentrations separate from those of the Tokyo Electric Power Company. The experts and officials from the IAEA and the local office in Fukushima will conduct a comprehensive evaluation of the first release via video conference this week. South Korea once again is planning to dispatch experts to the site sometime next week. The Government Policy Coordination Office said during its briefing that the date of the second discharge has not been determined thus far. However, Japan's public broadcaster NHK reported later that day that it will begin after about 3 weeks of equipment checks. Lee Kyung-eun, Arirang News.
The night skies above Seoul's Hangang River are set to shine every Friday until late October, with around 1,000 drones embroidering the autumn night. Our Choi Soo-hyung has more.
On Friday night, Seoul invited citizens to an astonishing drone show over the Hangang River. 1,000 drones depicted Seoul's major landmarks, including Gwanghwamun and the Hangang River night view, before ending the show with Seoul's new slogan, Seoul, My Soul. Visitors said they were captivated by the sophisticated beauty of the drones, which offered a charm distinct from traditional fireworks.
I was so shocked. When I was watching it, I thought it was better than fireworks. It was honestly it felt so surreal. It was so beautiful.
I think it showed a lot of really great scenes around Seoul, and I've seen a lot of the real places, and it made me remember those places and the times I visited them. So it was really great.
The 2023 Seoul Drone Night Show provided citizens with new entertainment during the Seoul Festa held in May, with a total of 4 performances. This fall, it will be held regularly at Duksam Hangang River Park Riverside Stage every Friday until October 27th, except for the Chuseok holiday and September 29th. The drone performances have different themes each week, such as Seoul Night Tour, Jazz Night, and Dream World. The show, which starts at 7 p.m., lasts for about 10 minutes.
Citizens can enjoy not only a drone show, but also cultural and artistic performances, making it even better for relaxing in open spaces on an autumn night to the fullest.
Battery limitations mean the show only lasts 10 minutes, but there's plenty of other entertainment, from performances to busking shows. Visitors can also enjoy camping along the Hangang River while watching the show, or just relaxing with their families.
I came here with my child, and it's so nice to feel refreshed. Thanks to the Seoul government for providing this wonderful experience free of charge.
Visitors can find more information through Seoul City's official Instagram or by calling 120 to contact the Tasan Call Center. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Matthew Ashley, and we now turn over to stories from around the world. We begin in northeastern Libya, where thousands of people are feared dead following devastating floods over the weekend. A military spokesperson for the eastern region put the death toll at over 2,000 on Monday and said around 5,000 people are still missing. The flooding was caused by torrential downpours from Storm Daniel. The heavy rains also caused a dam burst near the city of Derna, sweeping away entire neighborhoods. The city was worst hit, with the non-profit group, the Libyan Red Crescent, putting the death toll there at more than 300. Authorities expect the death toll to rise as search and rescue operations continue. Parts of the region have been declared a disaster zone. Libya is politically divided between the east and west. The internationally recognized government does not control the impacted area. Now, in the United States, memorial events were held on Monday to mark the 22nd anniversary of the September 11th Twin Towers attack that killed around 3,000 people. In New York, Vice President Kamala Harris and officials paid tribute at the site of the tragedy, while U.S. President Joe Biden addressed service members and first responders from a military base in Anchorage, Alaska. Other events were held at the Pentagon and a 9/11 memorial in Pennsylvania, as well as firehouses and city halls. On September 11, 2001, 4 planes were hijacked by members of the al-Qaeda terrorist group. 2 of the planes crashed into New York's Twin Towers, and another plane hit the Pentagon. The 4th aircraft never reached its intended target, the U.S. Capitol, after passengers fought back against the hijackers. It crashed in an open field in Pennsylvania. Now, staying in the United States, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration on Monday approved updated COVID-19 vaccines ahead of the fall and winter seasons in a bid to prevent a surge of infections. The approval applies to the latest jabs from Moderna as well as Pfizer. The new vaccines target the latest coronavirus variants. People who have never been inoculated against the virus can receive the updated vaccine. The vaccine is expected to receive final approval from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention before being rolled out later this week. And finally, dogs made a splash at Del Mar Dog Beach in California on Sunday by surfing waves at a local surfathon charity event. More than 50 canines surfed up a storm for the 18th Helen Woodward's Surf Dog Contest, with some riding the waves solo, while others had a guiding hand from their owners. The annual contest raises funds for orphaned pets. A dog named Sugar took home this year's top prize for Best in Surf.
Good morning. Calendars may say it is autumn, but summer-like heat continues across Korea. Daytime highs will be 3 to 4 degrees higher than average, with most regions seeing highs at 30 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Then south of inland regions will see 5 to 20 millimeters of passing rain, along with thunder and lightning during the day. Upper parts of the country, including the capital area, will be under mostly sunny skies. Mountainous regions in Gangwon-do and inland areas in Gyeongsang-Pukdo are covered with thick fog, so please drive with care. Morning temperatures are similar to yesterday, except in Gyeongsang-do provinces, where it's warmer this morning. Then again, afternoon highs in most parts will be at 30 degrees Celsius. East of Gangwon-do will see rain tomorrow and Thursday, while nationwide showers are in the forecast on Friday, which could linger into Saturday. Well, it seems like we'll have to wait until next week to see temperatures going down close to seasonal norms. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Wednesday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.